Little Richard was a cultural icon, but what do we really know about him, and what have we forgotten? Did you know Little Richard spent about $1,000 a day on the pipe, leave alone his wild parties? Richard struggled with his sexuality throughout his life. Sometimes he claimed to be gay or omnisexual. Despite Richard being gay, he also loved women and even got married. As a musician, Little Richard rarely held back. Richard captivated crowds with his percussive piano style and preacher's swagger, loads of pancake makeup with his pencil-thin mustache, and serious pompadour hairstyle. So, if you're a Little Richard fan or simply curious about this legend, hit the like button and let's dive in. Little Richard early life. Richard Wayne Penniman was born on December 5, 1932, in Macon, Georgia. He was the third child among 12 born to Leva Mae and Charles Bud Penniman. His father, in addition to being a church deacon and skilled brick mason, dabbled in selling bootleg moonshine and owned a nightclub known as the Tippin' Inn. Richard's mother was an active member of Macon's New Hope Baptist Church. Originally intended to be named Ricardo, an error resulted in his birth name being recorded as Richard. The Penniman family grew up in Macon's Pleasant Hill neighborhood. During his early years, Richard, due to his small and slender physique, earned the affectionate nickname Lil Richard within his family. He was a mischievous child, known for playing pranks on his neighbors. Possibly stemming from birth complications, he had a minor deformity that caused one of his legs to be shorter than the other. This condition led to an unusual walking style and made him a target for ridicule due to his effeminate appearance. How he got into music. At a young age, Richard immersed himself in music, starting his journey by singing in church and receiving piano lessons. He found particular enjoyment in Pentecostal churches due to their vibrant worship style and live music performances. As he grew older, Richard attended Macon's Hudson High School, where his academic performance was below average. However, his passion for music continued to flourish. In the 5th grade, he learned to play the alto saxophone and joined the school's marching band. During his high school years, Richard took on a part-time job at Macon City Auditorium, working for the local concert promoter Clint Brantley. His role involved selling Coca-Cola to audiences attending concerts by renowned artists of the era, including Cab Calloway, Lucky Millinder, and his personal favorite, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Was Little Richard chased away from home for being gay? Richard often played with girls as a child and was subjected to ridicule because of his manner of walking and talking. His father punished him whenever he caught him wearing his mother's makeup and clothing. Richard was involved with both gender as a teenager. Because of his effeminate mannerisms, his father kicked him out of their family home when he was 15 for being gay. How he joined the music industry. In October 1947, a chance encounter occurred when Sister Rosetta Tharpe overheard a young Richard, only 14 years old, singing her songs before her performance at the Macon City Auditorium. Impressed by his talent, she invited him to open her show. Following the performance, Tharpe compensated him, serving as the catalyst for his aspiration to pursue a career in entertainment. Richard acknowledged the profound influence of Ike Turner's piano introduction in Rocket 88 on his piano style. During this period, Richard also explored performing in drag under the alias Princess Levon. His stage presence was further shaped by the flashy showmanship of artists like Brown and Wright, especially Wright's flamboyant persona. Inspired by the styles of Brown and Wright, Richard decided to transition into a rhythm and blues singer. He formed a friendship with Wright, learning the art of entertainment from him. This mentorship led him to adopt a pompadour hairstyle resembling Wright's, don more flamboyant attire, and utilize Wright's brand of pancake makeup. However, Richard became disenchanted with the record industry and returned to Macon in 1954. Struggling with financial hardship, he resorted to working as a dishwasher for Greyhound Lines. It was during this challenging period that he introduced his provocative blues number titled Tutti Frutti, which quickly gained popularity and eventually sold over 1 million copies. What were biggest songs from Little Richard's? Little Richard, a legendary rock and roll pioneer, had several big hits throughout his career. Some of his most famous and biggest songs include 1. Tutti Frutti, released in 1955, this song is one of Richard's signature tracks and a rock and roll classic. 2. Long Tall Sally, another iconic hit from 1956 that further solidified Richard's status as a rock and roll superstar. 3. Good Golly, Miss Molly, released in 1958, this song became a chart topper and remains a favorite among fans. 4. Lucille, another hit from 1957, Lucille is known for its energetic and raucous sound. 5. Keep A Knockin', this song, also from 1957, is known for its infectious beat and memorable lyrics. 6. Jenny, Jenny, released in 1957, this song showcased Richard's dynamic vocal range and stage presence. 7. The Girl Can't Help It, while it was originally recorded for the movie of the same name in 1956, it remains one of Richard's notable songs. 8. Rip It Up, this 1956 hit is another example of Richard's influential early rock and roll sound. These songs helped define the early rock and roll era and continue to be celebrated for their energy and impact on the genre. Who was Little Richard married to? Audrey Robinson. Around 1956, Little Richard entered into a relationship with Audrey Robinson, who was a college student originally from Savannah, Georgia. Richard and Robinson became acquainted despite Robinson not being a fan of rock and roll. In his 1984 autobiography, Richard claimed that he encouraged other men to engage in sexual relationships with Robinson, including Buddy Holly. However, Robinson strongly denied these allegations. When Richard proposed marriage to Robinson, she turned down his offer. Later on, Robinson adopted the stage name Lee Angel and became known as a socialite. In the 1960s, Richard reconnected with Robinson, but their relationship faced challenges due to his struggles with drug abuse. Robinson was interviewed for Richard's 1985 documentary on The South Bank Show, where she refuted Richard's statements. According to Robinson, Richard would use her to purchase food from white-only fast food establishments that he couldn't enter due to racial segregation. Ernestine Harvin. Little Richard met his only wife, Ernestine Harvin, at an evangelical rally in October 1957. They began dating that same year and eventually got married on July 12, 1959, in California. According to Harvin, their marriage initially seemed happy and included normal sexual relations. However, their marriage ultimately ended in divorce in 1964. Harvin attributed the divorce to the challenges posed by her husband's celebrity status, which had made life difficult for her. In contrast, Richard stated that their marriage fell apart due to his neglect and because of his sexuality. Both Audrey Robinson and Ernestine Harvin denied Richard's claims that he was gay, with Richard believing that they didn't know because he was discreet about his sexuality during that time. During their marriage, Richard and Harvin adopted a 1-year-old boy named Danny Jones from a late church associate. Richard maintained a close relationship with his son, with Jones often serving as one of his bodyguards. Subsequently, Harvin went on to marry MacDonald Campbell. Did Little Richard adopt a child? In the 1980s, Little Richard formed a close bond with Creola Jones, the biological mother of Danny Jones. This connection blossomed during a period when Richard had stepped away from his rock and roll lifestyle and devoted himself to the church. He became close with Creola and her family by attending church services in Los Angeles. After Danny's father passed away, Creola Jones asked Richard to take him in, and Danny subsequently joined his father on the road. During this time, Danny shared some of the wisdom and life lessons he had received from his dad. In the later years of Little Richard's life, Danny continued to live and work alongside him in Tennessee. He revealed that, in his final years, Richard had primarily focused on his life in the church. When Little Richard passed away in May 2020, Danny took on the role of confirming his father's passing. Since Richard's death, Danny has largely maintained a private profile, and there has been limited public information about his activities and life. Little Richard life struggles. In his early 20s, Little Richard became involved in voyeurism, where a female friend would drive him around to pick up men. This behavior eventually drew the attention of the Macon police in 1955. He was arrested when caught in the act and was cited on a charge of sexual misconduct. As a result, Richard spent 3 days in jail, and he also faced a temporary ban from performing in Macon as a consequence of his arrest. This incident had an impact on his career and personal life during that time. In 1962, Little Richard faced another arrest, this time for allegedly spying on men while they were urinating in toilets at a Trailways bus station in Long Beach, California. This incident further added to the controversies in his life. On May 4, 1982, during an appearance on Late Night with David Letterman, Richard made a statement about his sexuality, saying, "God gave me the victory. I'm not gay now, but, you know, I was gay all my life. I believe I was one of the first gay people to come out. But God let me know that He made Adam and Eve, not Steve. So, I gave my heart to Christ." This statement indicated a significant shift in his personal beliefs and his journey toward religion. These experiences convinced the singer to give up drugs and alcohol, along with rock and roll, and return to the ministry. In his 1984 book, While expressing negative views on same-gender relationship as unnatural and contagious, Richard considered himself omnisexual, suggesting a complex and evolving understanding of his own sexuality over the years. Little Richard's statements and beliefs regarding his sexuality were often controversial and evolved throughout his life. How did Little Richard die? In October 1985, Little Richard returned from England to film a guest appearance on the television show Miami Vice. However, following the taping, he was involved in a serious car accident in West Hollywood, California. The accident left him with a broken right leg, broken ribs, and head and facial injuries. His injuries were severe, and his recovery required several months of medical treatment and rehabilitation. Unfortunately, due to his injuries and lengthy recovery process, Little Richard was unable to attend the inaugural Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony in January 1986, even though he was one of the inductees. Instead, he provided a recorded message. In 2007, Little Richard began experiencing difficulty walking due to sciatica affecting his left leg, which required him to use crutches for mobility. His health challenges escalated in November 2009 when he had to undergo replacement surgery on his left hip. Despite attempting a return to performing the following year, Richard's hip issues persisted, and he was often brought on stage in a wheelchair, only able to perform while seated. His health continued to decline, but with proper medical care and determination, he persevered. On May 9, 2020, after battling a 2-month illness, Little Richard passed away at the age of 87 at his home in Tullahoma, Tennessee. The cause of his death was related to bone cancer. At the time of his passing, his brother, sister, and son were by his side. His legacy. In addition to his groundbreaking musical style, Little Richard was recognized as one of the first black crossover artists who successfully reached audiences of all races. He played a pivotal role in breaking down racial barriers in the music industry and society at large. His music and electrifying live performances were instrumental in drawing mixed audiences, comprising both black and white fans. Little Richard's ability to transcend racial divides and connect with a diverse fan base contributed significantly to the integration of audiences during a time when racial segregation was still prevalent in many parts of the United States. His impact on the music world extended far beyond his genre, making him a cultural icon and a trailblazer in the fight against racial discrimination in the entertainment industry.